linear phrasing. Linear phrasing is simply one thing happens on a line, linear, at a time. You can only have one point on a line in geometry. It's the same with linear phrasing in music. One thing happens at a time. One voice happens at a time. Now we're putting an underlying current of 16th notes as the subdivision. So what I want to challenge you to do is eliminate the rest of the drum set for now and just focus on two voices, the snare drum and the floor tom. You're going to play 16th notes as the underlying subdivision, and then I like to think of my right hand as the thing that's creating the shapes. So the right hand is kind of the thing that's moving the most, and the left hand's job is to fill in the 16th notes on the snare drum, like this. So the left hand is kind of a softer note. Now we have two different versions of coordination. We have vertical coordination, up and down, which is accents, and we have horizontal coordination, which is side to side, which would be these two drums in this case. So vertical is accents, horizontal is voices. Okay, so you have two different ways to do coordination. So now you've increased your choices, your creative choices, by thinking vertically and horizontally. So let's play 8 measures of linear phrasing between the snare drum and the floor tom together. Do anything you want. Now, extra points if you don't fall into a pattern. The idea is you want to start to increase your creative capacity, and the way to do that is to always try to do something different and new. So you are improvising shapes between these two instruments. If you find yourself falling into a pattern, change it, okay? You want to try to go further down the rabbit hole of creativity between these two things. So if you fall into a pattern, you've kind of hit a dead end. So you've got to figure out how to get out of that and go down a different path while consistently playing 16th notes, okay? Let's do 8 measures together. Anything you want. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, you can do it for as long as you want. I really recommend doing it for like 10 minutes. See how long you can keep going with 16th notes just with 2 voices. Okay, let's add a pulse. Let's add the hi-hat as a quarter note pulse. Now we're introducing a little bit of coordination. Now your phrasing might feel like it gets upside down every once in a while. If you play a 3-note grouping, you might feel like you're on the other side of the beat. So you have to start thinking about phrases in longer segments, like longer shapes over the bar line shapes. So let's try to do 8 measures again, but now keeping a quarter note pulse on the hi-hat. There we go. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, cool. Now see, we still haven't even experimented with the rest of the drums. When you start to go out to the rest of the drums with the phrasing, you can start experimenting with voices, pitches, durations. So there's a lot of choices, but I think it's really important to really try to focus in on something limiting in the beginning. It's always good to limit yourself, because then you have to really think and be creative on less. Super, super good thing to do. Now, if you want to increase the coordination, you could go to a dotted 8th note on the hi-hat while maintaining these phrases. So then you have to keep track of where you are in the phrase. As this is a dotted 8th note, a 4-measure long phrase has to be repeated 3 times for this to come back to the downbeat. So let's try that. We're going to play 12 measures, dotted 8th note in the hi-hat, and 16th notes here. Now these might start to feel like triplets if you're not used to playing dotted 8th notes with 16ths as the subdivision. You might start thinking you're in 12/8. But we're going to remain in 4/4. This is going to be a dotted 8th note. We're going to play 12 measures. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. That gets a little tricky. You've got to really pay attention to a lot of things. But still, we're just isolating these two things with our hands. Keep practicing this. This is a great exercise to get your independence happening. Even with quarter notes, your independence starts to grow because these phrases, once you start to understand the phrases and the groupings that you're creating, you can play with over bar line stuff, odd grouping stuff. Here's one more hint, one more little tidbit of information that I'll give to you today. When you think about phrasing, a great way to think about phrasing is things that are in groups of 2 and groups of 3. 2, 3. So when you combine 2s and 3s, you can start to create shapes. If you do all 2s and you're playing 16th notes, it'll never do anything but this. But if you put a grouping of 3 in there every once in a while, you start to curve your phrases and things start to go over the bar line. So have fun with this, experiment with the 3 voices, work on your coordination with chord notes, try your coordination with dotted eighth notes. Good luck. I'll see you soon.